You want to know how you get away with a lie? Or a mountain of lies? Marginalize the truth. Create a scenario where the truth is told, but place it in a setting where it can be ridiculed and mocked as fanciful, crazy, or ridiculous. To intensify the deception, create a wild-eyed character, the messenger of this truth. And we're not talking about pseudo-truth. We're talking about actual truth. Imply that this messenger of truth is a conspiracy theorist. Now, slide that truth with its discredited messenger to the masses. From that point forward, whenever the mentally manipulated throng who witnessed that display of scorned truth encounters that truth again, they will, without question, denounce and discount it. And here is how you get away with a lie: by proclaiming the truth in broad daylight.
They're the ones you should be arresting, not me.
Why don't you say that before? What do we got here? Cam, this is William Klein. He was wrecking an office.
But I just wanted to meet them face to face. I wanted them to admit what they were doing.
Who is they? He was in the office of the Trilateral Commission.
Trilateral Commission?
Yeah, the Trilateral Commission.
All right, what is the Trilateral Commission?
It's an organization founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller to bring together business and political leaders from the United States, Europe, Japan, so they could work together for better economic and political cooperation between their nations.
Well, that's what they'd like us to believe. But you see, what they're really up to is a scheme to plant their own loyal members in positions of power in this country, to work to erase national boundaries and create an international community, and in time bring about a one world government with David Rockefeller calling the shots.
I take it they're pressing charges?
Yeah, well, he broke a globe and some UNICEF artwork.
Well, they're in on it too.
Okay, Mr. Klein, if you just...
I'm telling you, our whole way of life as we know it is in jeopardy.
I appreciate that information.
But I have the documented evidence. It's all in there. Show him.
Well, he's got these magazines here.
Conspiracy Review? Suppressed Truth Roundup?
The whole master plan is exposed.
Yeah, well,
You're still not convinced, huh? Would you like to hear the names of just a few of the people who have been on the Trilateral Commission?
Not particularly.
James
no.
Earl Carter. Heard of him?
Look, Mr. Klein...
Henry Kissinger. You heard of him? Walter Mondale.
Who?
Mr. Klein, this is
John Anderson, George Bush. Now, you remember at the convention, everybody thought it was going to be Ford for Veep. You know what happened? David Rockefeller just picked up a phone, put in a call. Hey, Ronnie, forget Jerry, it's George. Bye. So, no matter who won in November, they had their man in the White House.
Are you through?
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly, power, the likes of which this world has never seen before.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows.
Let me talk about some of the issues. One is North Korea. And you say that you, as president, would be willing to launch a preemptive strike against North Korea's nuclear capability.
First, I'd negotiate. I would negotiate like crazy, and I'd make sure that we tried to get the best deal possible. Look, Tim, If a man walks up to you on a street in Washington, because this doesn't happen, of course, in New York, but if a man walks up and puts a gun to your head and says, give me your money, wouldn't you rather know where he's coming from before he had the gun in his hand? And these people, in 3 or 4 years, are going to be having nuclear weapons. They're going to have those weapons pointed all over the world, and specifically at the United States. And wouldn't you be better off solving this really potentially unbelievable, and the biggest problem, I mean, we can talk about the economy, we can talk about Social Security. The biggest problem this world has is nuclear proliferation. And we have a country out there in North Korea, which is sort of wacko, which is not a bunch of dummies, and they are going out and they are developing nuclear weapons. And they're not doing it because they're having fun doing it. They're doing it for a reason. And wouldn't it be good to sit down and really negotiate something, and ideally negotiate? Now, if that negotiation doesn't work, you better solve the problem now than solve it later.
The former general of the Air Force, Merrill McPeak, the former Secretary of Defense, Les Aspin, said you could not launch a preemptive strike against North Korea because the nuclear fallout could be devastating to the Asian Peninsula.
I'm not talking about us using nuclear weapons. I'm saying that they have areas where they're developing missiles.
No, but taking out their nuclear potential would create a fallout.
Tim, do you know that this country went out and gave them nuclear reactors, free fuel for 10 years? We virtually tried to bribe them into stopping, and they're continuing to do what they're doing, and they're laughing at us. They think we're a bunch of dummies. I'm saying that we have to do something to stop.
But if the military told you, Mr. Trump, we can't do this.
You give me 2 names. You're giving me 2 names. I don't know. Do you want to do it in 5 years when they have warheads all over the place, every one of them pointing to New York City, to Washington, and every one of our... Is that when you want to do it? Or do you want to do something now? You better do it now. And if they think you're serious, I deal with lots of people. If they think you're serious, they'll negotiate, and it'll never come to that.
And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name.
You will be chipped. It's just a matter of time. That's what analysts and educators tell us, but don't worry, what happened in Wisconsin is not about to go mass market yet. A small firm recently embedded microchips in their employees as a way to bypass company badges and corporate logons and to get attention for their cafeteria kiosks, which are available on a cashless payment plan like Apple Pay. Chip proponents tell us that having a chip in the hand is better than grabbing for the cell phone because you can never forget it and you can't lose it, and you have the capability to communicate with machines in a way we couldn't before. Others just think that having a corporation stick a chip in this hand is kind of creepy, even if the companies say that it can track you and that your information is private. Consumers first, corporations second, which is why the analysts say it's going to be a while, but you will be chipped. Progress, right? It's going to be a while, but you will be chipped. Progress, right?
And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth."
We're going to be talking about the total solar eclipse that's going to be occurring, but we're going to be reiterating some things and also talking about the stark predictive programming because it's everywhere. And I'm here at space.com that says partial lunar eclipse, a prequel to the 2017 total solar eclipse. Now, just this week, a few days ago, there was a partial lunar eclipse that occurred over the night skies in much of Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia. And while the lunar eclipse did not occur in the Americas, we know that the total solar eclipse will, but this just gives more information about it. And now, less than 2 weeks from today will be the solar eclipse that will occur on 8/21/2017 and will be seen throughout all of continental USA. And this is very, very important indeed. Now we're going to talk more about this eclipse and why it's not like any other eclipse and why we should not pass it off as, oh, just some other eclipse happening. Oh, no big deal. I'm telling you, this goes much deeper than we think it does. And now I'm here showing you the actual eclipse path map. And this map right here shows you the path of totality. I know I've gone over this before, but we'll just once again briefly go over it. So as you can see, it will start by going and passing Oregon in the morning, and then it'll keep going towards Idaho, and then also passing Wyoming, and then from Wyoming, it'll continue onward to Nebraska, passing Nebraska onward towards Kansas and Kansas City, Missouri. It then will go over all across Missouri, passing southern Illinois towards the Cairo region, passing the Mississippi, where it will continue on through Kentucky, and then finally passing Tennessee, all the way across places such as North Carolina, Georgia, and then all the way through South Carolina too, where it will then pass and go towards the Atlantic Ocean. Now, although I had not mentioned this before, what's very interesting and suspicious indeed about all of this is the places that this eclipse is going to pass and the totality places. So, for example, the first one will be the Cascadia region. Very interesting with the Cascadia fault line, because we know that FEMA did that drill back in 2016 along the Cascadia region. What are they getting ready for? And then it'll also be close to Yellowstone National Park, which is right here in this region, and that's all they've been talking about, and that's all we've been seeing is an uptick with earthquakes in that region. And then another region that's very suspect that we need to watch out for is the southern Illinois and southern Missouri area where the New Madrid fault line is, and then also to the Atlantic Ocean. Now, I do not think it's a surprise or a coincidence that the path of totality for this eclipse just so happens to be passing over these major landmarks, and that your mainstream media have been subliminally telling you and subliminally conditioning you and getting you ready for major events that are going to take place in these specific regions. And even in predictive programming with movies such as 2012 and many, many others that all foreshadow and talk about Yellowstone going off, and also other ones having to do with the so-called comet coming and the West Coast being flooded. We see it all over the place, and we even see predictive programming here too that have to do with 9/11, and we know that they've done predictive programming with 9/11 all over, but even here too on an October 1976 Sesame Street cover. Now we see that this has to do with 9/11, and many have noted how this is showing and depicting 9/11 from 2001, but there's something else that many of us have missed. And do you see that something else? What is this showing you right here? And if you zoom in just a little bit more, you see that this is actually showing what it looks to be a total solar eclipse right there. Why are they showing that, especially when it has to do with the same cover depicting 9/11? And as you're going to find out in many films and TV shows, there's a lot of predictive programming when it comes to solar eclipses, just as much as there is with 9/11, And here is just a list of it. I'll be sure to leave this in the description box below. We're not going to go over all of it, but as you can see, even in novels, they have to do with solar eclipses and the predictive programming. Even in one book entitled Illegal Alien, where so-called aliens visit Earth and observe a total solar eclipse. Now, of course, in the book, it makes reference to the one that occurred back in Europe that was 18 years ago. But is this really referring to that eclipse, or is it actually referring to another one? Let's see what other films have to say. Now here's just a few of the films and a list of them that you can find where solar eclipses occur or have a big role and a big theme and play a major part in these films. We're only going to be going over a few of them. As you can see right here, they also are listed in King Solomon's Mines, Barabbas, 2001, A Space Odyssey, The Little Shop of Horrors, and many other films and listings here. Like I said, we'll be going over just a few of them, and we're going to be starting actually with this one right here, Little Shop of Horrors. And now we're going to be going over a series of films and a compilation of TV shows also that all talk about and have to do with a total solar eclipse or an eclipse mentioned in their films. And what you're going to see is exactly which one they're talking about. Now, what you're looking at currently comes from the film Little Shop of Horrors from the very beginning from 1986. And this film is based on the original musical from 1982 and also a film that was done back in 1960. And in the movie, it's about a florist, and ironically enough, during a total solar eclipse, the plant discovered by the florist feeds only on human flesh and blood, depicting, quote, the end of the world. And this is the caption at the very beginning, which says, on the 23rd day of the month of September, in an early year of a decade not too long before our own, the human race suddenly encountered a deadly threat to its very existence. And this terrifying enemy surfaced, as such enemies often do, in the seemingly most innocent and unlikely of places. Now, once again, this is from the very opening of the film where the first song is being sung. And as you can see right here, they pan to a shot right here where it says, unexpected total eclipse, end of the world. And this is from the newspaper at the very beginning of the film. There's a total solar eclipse that's going to be occurring in America real soon. And then, no coincidence and no surprise, exactly 33 days later from this will be what? September 23rd, 2017, which will be the Revelation 12 sign that will be seen in the sky. We also know how the elite are using mainstream media to joke about the end of the world, and they're also subliminally joking and putting right in front of our faces themes and references to what they call the, quote, zombie apocalypse. That's also very interesting and suspicious indeed too, because didn't your government come out with the document that talked about zombie apocalypse and what to do with the zombie apocalypse? And didn't they also just so happen to mention and list the types of zombies that they're going to be fighting off should a zombie apocalypse happen? Didn't your government also plan this too? Or is this just a bunch of hoopla because your government and elite know exactly what time it is? The question is, though, do you? The second film that we're going to go over has to do with ancient prophecies being fulfilled. It comes from the film Lara Croft Tomb Raider that was released in 2001 based on a popular video game series. And this movie has to do with the protagonist's character, Lara, played by Angelina Jolie, who must recover an ancient triangle of light artifact before the Illuminati does, and has to do so in order to save the world. Now, in this movie, there are references to solar eclipse, star alignments every 5,000 years, great danger, the Illuminati, and truth right in front of us. And they just so happen to be making another version of this movie in 2018. What perfect timing indeed. Now, in the actual movie, we're going to go over the scene where Lara Croft finds a book, and inside of this book is the all-seeing eye, and also a letter from Lara's father, and this is what the letter reads. Lara, by now I'm sure you have discovered the clock I concealed. The clock is the key, Lara. It will unlock the hiding place of 2 pieces of a sacred iron. This is the magical triangle I told you about when you were little, the triangle of light, but it is no bedtime story. It was forged from metal found in the crater of a meteor that had fallen to Earth at the exact moment of the previous alignment of the 9 planets. The people of the light built a great city in this crater where they worshipped the triangle for its ability to control time. It gave its possessor a power that could be used for good or great evil. Their abuse of this power led to the destruction of the city. To be sure no man would ever again wield this power, the triangle was split into 2 pieces and hid at the opposite ends of the earth. Lara, do you remember the jasmine that only grows in one temple on the ancient Khmer Trail in Cambodia? This is the entrance to the Tomb of the Dancing Light, where the first half of the triangle is hidden. You must be there at the exact moment of the second phase of the planetary alignment. You must hurry. You have very little time. As the planets move into alignment, the world will be in great danger from the secret society known as the Illuminati, devious, dangerous men who seek to fulfill an ancient prophecy by reuniting the two halves and attaining the triangle's awesome, terrible powers. This you must prevent at all costs. Solara, I'm asking you to complete my work, to find and destroy both halves of the triangle. Next film comes from 1997 called The Fifth Element, and this one's about a cab driver who becomes the central figure in stopping great evil from approaching. And like Lara Croft, this one also mentions star alignment, solar eclipse, and a 5,000-year ancient prophecy also. Now, this is at the very beginning of the movie, right before the so-called aliens have contact at an Egyptian temple. There's a group of interpreters who are interpreting the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and this is one of the interpretations that they read. And I'll be quoting from the movie verbatim, quote, "When the three planets are in eclipse, the black hole like a door is opened." Evil comes, spreading terror and chaos. When asked how long, the response is every 5,000 years. And then the movie fast forwards 300 years later into the future to a scene that just so happens to show a total solar eclipse. We also have the movie Hellboy that was released in 2004 based on the 1993 comics. Now this movie has to do with the portal opening back in the 1940s to free monstrous demonic creatures. Sounds like CERN, and we should be concerned indeed, and how that portal must be destroyed. But then Hellboy, who is then an infant demon, escapes through the portal and is adopted, and 60 years later, Hellboy is needed by Rasputin to open the gate of hell in order to bring in demonic creatures for the end of the world known as the Ogdru Jihad. But in the end, rather than Hellboy doing this for Rasputin and summoning the creatures with his horns, he ends up breaking the horns and then stabbing Rasputin, disallowing the creatures to come from the other world and from the portal to be opened. But in the film, notice how all of this, and notice how this scene itself takes place when? During an eclipse? Now, as you can see from these screenshots here, it's actually a lunar eclipse that takes place in the film, and they depict a lunar eclipse, but wasn't there a lunar eclipse just a few days ago, just weeks before the total solar eclipse, huh? Very interesting and suspicious indeed. And this movie has to do all with portals opening, doorways opening, the release of creatures to bring about the end of the world and cataclysmic events. Where does this sound familiar? I also thought it was very interesting to note how in the comics themselves, the Ogdru Jihad are fictional characters that are the Dragon of Revelation who are released from prison to bring about the end of the world. And their team affiliations include the Nazis, the Frogmen, and the Mayans too. And then their notable alliances too are the Dragon, the Beast, and the Serpent. The same thing that we see in Revelation chapter 12, which is the same exact sign that we're going to see on September 23rd, 2017 in the sky. And notice how the publisher is Dark Horse Comics, the same as Katy Perry Dark Horse, which depicts Katy Perry on top of a pyramid, the capping of the pyramid, and also showing ancient Egypt, the New World Order too. The same Katy Perry who they depicted at the Super Bowl riding a beast. Oh, but there's nothing to see there. It's just for fun there. Oh, it's just fictional there. Hello, it's time to wake up to the world around us and to what time it really is and what they're really showing us. The next movie is Pitch Black, which was a 2000 film involving a team of survivors whose ship crashes on a supposed planet, who then discover that an eclipse will bring about a deadly nocturnal creatures. Now, in the movie itself, these creatures are known as bioraptors, which are highly aggressive and animalistic creatures capable of flight and having a physiological aversion to sunlight, as if they can die if exposed to enough ultraviolet radiation. And, interestingly enough, roughly every 22 years, the planet undergoes a several-month-long planet-wide eclipse caused by an aligning of the planets and stars such that it sits in between two much larger planets. It is during this time that the bioraptors emerge from their underground dwellings and engage in mass feeding reminiscent of locust swarms. What does that remind you of? And it just so happens that this year alone, in 2017, the star alignment, or the Revelation 12 sign that's going to take place on September 23rd, 2017, occurs just 33 days after the total eclipse in America. Exactly 33 days, a little bit over a month. And during this time in this movie is when these creatures emerge. Another movie is one that was released back in 2010, also known as Arctic Blast, and this one has to do with cold air blasting and spreading worldwide after a solar eclipse, triggering a series of cataclysmic and apocalyptic events. Mel Gibson's Apocalypto from 2006, and they even show you a total solar eclipse right here. Now, in many ancient prophecies and ancient cultures, the total solar eclipse represented and had to do with human offerings. And in the movie itself, the solar eclipse happens right when one of the captives, or who is the main character, is about to be offered, but is then not offered because of the solar eclipse. And the fact that the movie is entitled Apocalypto reminds us of Apocalypse and even the movie 2012 with ancient Mayan prophecy. And even in cartoon movies too, such as the 2002 film The Wild Thornberrys, where the main character Eliza helps save elephants, and on the day of a total solar eclipse, as you can see right here in the movie itself, the elephants come together. And of course, we cannot forget about The Simpsons, where they too depict a total solar eclipse in Springfield in the episode Gone Maggie Gone, which is from season 20, episode 13. Now in the episode, Homer leaves Maggie on the doorstep of a convent, but when she disappears, Lisa then goes undercover as a nun to solve the mystery and find her. Meanwhile, Homer tries to keep Maggie's disappearance a secret from Marge, who was temporarily blinded while watching a solar eclipse. Now in the beginning of the episode, where it's actually shown on the news report, they even show something like this where they show end of days. And then they also show the eclipse as it's happening. And then as the eclipse is ending, it then shows Marge being blinded. But as the episode continues to go on, they also make references to things such as the Da Vinci Code, child offerings, and the horrors of Catholicism, the Illuminati, the end of the world, and they even tell about ancient prophecies regarding Freemasonic founding fathers and a phony revolutionary war. And also the episode talks about a search for a gem, and that the gem will be found after the first full moon following the solar eclipse. And this gem is to bring about world peace, and they're all after it. And this shows you Mr. Burns, who also is after it and even admits to being a Freemason. And even towards the very beginning of the episode, they show you the same exact path that happens to look just like the same path as the eclipse that's going to occur real soon. The path of totality is almost no different. 40 days following the total solar eclipse that occurs on 8/21/2017, we land on the date September 29, 2017, which is what? The Day of Atonement, what you're currently looking at now, because in between the 40 days of the total eclipse and Day of Atonement, we have the Revelation 12 sign that has to do with the woman being clothed with the sun. The moon is underneath her feet. There are 9 stars that make up the Leo constellation, with these 3 stars right here for a total of 12. And then we also have right here the woman being pregnant with child about to give birth. And so we know that this is the fulfillment of that sign that is talked about in the book of Revelation chapter 12. Now, what's also interesting about this is the Jupiter's retrograde motion, the star that represents the Messiah, the King star, that's been in the womb of the Virgin for about 38 weeks now. And then culminating on this date, on September 23rd, 2017, the stars will align perfectly, and then the star will start to move down the womb and will travel down the womb, and has been here by this point for at least 42 weeks. And then based on what scripture tells us in the book of Yashayahu, or Isaiah chapter 66, verses 7 and 8, it even tells us, and Yahuwah tells us, that the birth pains begin after the child is born and not before. And this also relates to the prophecy that's spoken of in Revelation chapter 12. This is one of the precepts and witnesses for it. So in conclusion, we see all of the signs in the sky, and we see the references for the eclipse in the Revelation 12 sign that occurs exactly 33 days later on September 23rd, 2017. We see how this eclipse is seen all throughout the movies and TV shows and predictive programming just as much as 9/11, if not more. And we know how this relates to Scripture, prophetically speaking, the people of Scripture, and the judgment to come that's soon to follow, because we know that it comes, sudden destruction comes when they say peace and safety as travail upon a woman. Of course, we do not know the future, and I'm not saying that anything cataclysmic will happen on any of these 2 days, but it's important to stay updated and aware of the world around us and the signs of the times, and to wake up to the truth that's right in front of us. Please seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha so you can continue to be awakened to truth and come out of the lies and come out of Babylon, come out of these religions quickly. Quick, fast, and in a hurry, because as you can see, time is running out. They're literally telling you what time it is. But now that you see the truth, know this, the truth will make you free.
so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video presentation. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, and share it on your favorite social media sites. There's a lot more to come, so stay tuned and we'll see you back next time.